All right, everybody, so souped that this new set is dropped, and I am playing some games with some new decks. What do we got this time around? Well, we have Elise and Nocturne, and I've been wanting to make this deck since Nocturne was revealed, in all honesty, and with how much of a lack of aggro and burn aggro we've had in the last format, pretty excited to see an aggro like this succeed, an aggro deck like this. So we're going to see 4 games this time around. So usually we're going to go through the deck list, we're going to explain some of the decisions, then we got 4 games. Why? Because I played 5, won all 5, started recording after the first one, so we got 4 straight wins. This deck is just killing it right now on ladder, so definitely going to see how far I can take it. But yes, we are going to go through the deck list first. This deck kills Ace Sol decks. It kills all those stupid ramp decks that all those MFs are playing right now, and I don't mean Misfortune. I mean everybody playing the Ace Sol decks. It also sounds like I'm saying asshole when I say Ace Sol. Really, that somebody's gonna think of something else for that, but I don't know. Without further ado, I am Shit Just Works. My name is Justin. If you don't know me, hit the subscribe button. If you haven't already subscribed, we got tons of tournament stuff, tons of card game, Legends of Runeterra, decks, all that sorts of. Hit the like button and yeah, that stuff. Just do it. Here's the video. Alright, so as always, if you guys want the deck link or the deck code or whatever, it's going to be in the description below, so check it out. If you want to go ahead and net deck this baby and take it all the way up the ladder, go for it. I implore you to do so because I'm so happy that this deck is working as well as it is right now. So, alright, what do we got here? We have, what strategy? Go face. Always the best strategy in the entire game, in any card game. You go face, that's where it's at. Face is the place. We got face going on in this deck, and boy, all right, how do we go face? Well, there's 2 main ways that we do this, right? First way is fearsome units. Love us some fearsome units. We have the whole spider package with the fearsome in here, Arachnoid Horror, Elise, Frenzied Skitterer, Nocturne is also fearsome, being a new champion, and this card, thought it was terrible. Still haven't seen it be super impactful yet, but it seems like it has a place in here. It's kind of like a finisher. Getting this as a 5/5 on turn 5 with how quick this deck is actually isn't terrible, to be honest with you. And it does trigger itself, too. So it's actually already a 3/5 when it hits the field for 5 and fearsome. Seems pretty good, right? So just something to take into consideration. This card, I know, you don't even know what it is, right? Nobody's heard of it before. Well, this was actually in the very first set. And now I'm actually throwing it in this deck. Again, haven't seen it be incredibly successful yet, like super impactful, but hasn't negatively impacted the deck. So it's, again, just another top-end card to make sure that we have that 6/5 finisher with a fearsome unit. And obviously, like, this is just better than Dusk Rider. If you actually get the Dusk Rider up to 6/5, that's probably a little bit harder. Dusk Rider is a Nightfall thing, though, so it does proc Nocturne's level up. So a lot of different things there. We could just axe Dusk Rider entirely, maybe the Shieldbreaker, who knows. Might also 1 copy in there just in case they do have fearsome blockers for the overwhelm. So fearsome, right? Now, how else do we do face damage? Well, if they do have fearsome blockers, we got challenger units, baby. We got so many challenger units. Why? Because Elise will almost always level up, probably more often than the Nocturne will level up, to be honest with you. So those Spiderlings that you do get from Elise, they will come in handy late game. That 1/1 Spiderling pulling a turn 5 Avarosian Hearthguard off to the right, while all your other fearsome units go in for lethal. Yeah, feels good to me, not gonna lie. Also, all these 1-drops in here, they're very important because of Nightfall. A lot of times, like, yeah, you're gonna want to get a Precious Pet or a Hapless Aristocrat down on turn 1. But beyond that, you're going to want to possibly save these for some sort of activator for the Nightfall cards. More specifically, Doom Beast is incredibly important to activate for Nightfall as usually a finisher. And Nocturne's Nightfall is actually incredible. Nocturne's Nightfall, the vulnerable does what the Spiderlings do, being able to yoink the units to the right. And also gives everything -1 to allow your fearsome units to get in. So Nocturne actually super good. And Decisive Maneuver, just the final thought to throw in here. This card actually might end up being a 3 of in this deck if I take out a Dusk Rider or a Trifarian Shieldbreaker, because honestly, this card seems busted. The stuns for Arachnoid Sentry are great, as you're going to see in some of these games that we're going to go through here in a second. Decisive Maneuver, obviously the stun is good, but being able to give your Fearsome +2/+0, and they also can't be blocked, and let's say they're spiders and they have Challenger, that's freaking good. Okay, so Decisive Maneuver, Verdict's in, good card in this deck. But without further ado, let's get into the gameplay. All right, so first up we have this sort of Fiora Leona thingamajig. I don't really know. I've played a bunch of decks so far. I haven't seen this one as of yet on ladder. So this is probably the weirdest out of these 4 games that you're going to see. But, you know, inherently it just seems like it's kind of trying to do mid-range Bannerman type Demacia thingies, right? So typical mid-range deck. So obviously it's going to want to maintain tempo on the board as well as, you know, generally more units than us. You can see we're usually going to be able to match the units with the Bannerman deck, but once turn 4 and 5 hits, the units are generally going to be a lot stronger than ours, which is going to be a problem. We are able to sneak that 3 damage through because obviously, you know, generally speaking, a Demacia player is not going to want to trade their Fiora for anything, which is why he decided to take that attack. Also doesn't generally want to trade a War Chefs for anything. So something to take into consideration. Might have been able to attack with the Elise, though, too, just being able to trade the Unspeakable Horror for it if it really came down to it. But we wouldn't have been able to get the Nightfall effect on the Unspeakable Horror. So this turn... Okay, so in this particular matchup, you see us dropping the Frenzy Skitterer, right? Frenzy Skitterer is like a behemoth in this deck. So think, imagine if it wasn't nerfed from before. If you guys don't remember, I think it was like a 4-2 or a 4-3 or something with that effect. Yeah, I know, busted, right? So in this deck, you usually want to be playing that on the offensive. But if it's giving you another turn to live to pull something like a Fervor or a Doom Beast or just something to do direct burn damage, a lot of times it's okay to play it on the defensive. Now, in this particular matchup, we're going against Bannerman, all right? That shut down their attack turn. I personally think that they should have still attacked there, but whatever. It shut down their attack turn, which is what we're looking for. We want to be able to be the ones on the aggressive here, especially since we have something like, you know, the stun, right? So the stun give +2 to everything, which... Decisive Maneuver, that's the word. Jesus, I was like trying to find the word and I couldn't think of it. So this attack is actually great on 6 mana because we have 2 options. We can either play the Decisive Maneuver, or we can do what we did there, the Unspeakable Horror to negate the single combat, and then the Noxian Fervor. All of that trade, all of it, felt amazing for us. Like, negating the single combat, like, I've found that a lot of times, I think one of these games, or it might have been another game, I Noxian Fervor to Spiderling, because generally speaking, in this format thus far, and I'll get into this a little bit more later, there's not a lot of removal, you know, hopping around right now, right? Especially in those A-Soul decks. It's just a lot of ramp and all that good stuff. So, and the removal, if any, from those Celestial cards is slow. So, they vengeanced my Spiderling to prevent the Noxian Fervor. I'll take it. I'll take that trade all day, every day. That's a 4-mana swing and getting rid of a key card in Vengeance. So, it feels really good. But, again, you can see here, this is the power of this deck. Obviously, I don't want to not open attack because it gives them the chance to play something like Genevieve or, in this case, maybe a Bannerman. You know, again, you want to pull the fearsome blockers with your challengers. Elise being leveled makes this an incredible attack. We pull the fearsomes. They don't have anything else they can do. Really, all they could have had was maybe a single combat, and I still probably would have been able to take that game away. So, Challenger coming in big there, taking home game 1. So, all right. If you guys don't already know, we got ourselves some A-Soul and Thresh floating around. Holy bejesus, is everybody playing A-Soul. This is like the #1 deck of day 1 and 2 of the new format. Everybody's basically just, let's ramp up until we get A-Soul on the field, and then A-Soul just wins the game because he's a big boy and he gives us free big cards, Celestial cards, right? Well, the inherent disadvantage to doing that is our deck. So this is why I built this deck. It wrecks A-Soul decks. It's too quick for it. These Celestial cards, believe it or not, so I just mentioned this earlier, right? They're all slow speed. So I know you see the Serpent come out. It's not a spell. Technically, summoning a follower is slow speed. So what that means is that when you're going up against these decks, generally on your turn, they're not going to have too much of a response. So like in the middle of combat, you know, stuff like that. Once their field is on the field, that's pretty much what you're dealing with. what you have to worry about is if it's their turn with priority, right? Then they play some big slow spell and they freaking blow up your field. That's the problem. So open attacks, obviously, they're super weak to it. And if they don't use one of those big development slow spells early on, they're going to get punished for it generally because of your aggression, right? So we see here, we have a wide board, feels really good. We do not currently have an activator for Nocturne, which kind of stinks a little bit. But we do have 2 Noxian Fervors that we want to get rid of. So it's exactly why we go ahead and do it on our release. They only have 1 mana. There's no way to negate it. That's another thing, too. Outside of them playing Vengeance, which, okay, this is what happens right here. So they actually Vengeance this Spiderling because they're so low. And this feels amazing. This is great. I have 5 mana to freely do whatever I want. You know what that means? Big Dad and Nocturne hitting the field, baby. And God, that feels good. So we're also going to be able... So we're going to make this vulnerable, the Bark Beast. And because obviously the other two units on the board don't have Fearsome. So they're still going to be able to get blocked. So if I can trade with this, lower stat 3-1, I might as well. But again, this oh my God, Nocturne is busted at 5 attack. I think people, they look at Nocturne, they're like, Nocturne's not that great. Nocturne is great because he's a 4-drop with 5 attack. Like, that trades really well into most 5-drops. Like you can see here, that was a 5-drop that Nocturne just traded with. That feels like a really good trade. And the previous turn, he pushes 5 damage. Like, if you vulnerable something and reduce the rest of the field down, if you are just pushing 5 damage with Nocturne, and you have other things, pulling the vulnerable unit or whatever, that's a quarter of their life. That's like that's nothing to shake your head at. Like, that's good, right? So I think Nocturne, his key use in this deck is to actually just attack as level 1. Generally speaking, you're not going to level him. If you do level him, then he's just absolutely busted, because then you can just summon all your 1-drops and then your opponent just can't block anything. So yeah, he's pretty good. So definitely try to get that 5 attack in when you can, when possible early on. So again, here, okay, so this deck, all right, we're starting off early. I was gonna say again, we're starting off early with summoning as much as possible. This is this elusive deck. So everybody's playing that Targon Ace Soul crap, right? Everybody, when this card got revealed, the +2/+2 give everything ephemeral in your deck and +2/+2. When that card was revealed, it was like, oh man, oh god, elusive is just gonna be. And everybody at the beginning of every format, I feel, flocks to elusive. Like, oh my god, elusive, you can't block them. Like, it's uninteractive, seems like the easiest way to win, let's just do it. Well, this deck hard bodies elusive. Like, let me tell you, this deck kills it. Unspeakable Horror is actually perfect for these Green Glade duos, which they're usually still going to get down early on in the game without +2/+2, just because it's one of their cheaper drop units, and they're going to want to put some aggression on. So generally, you're still going to have a 1 health Green Glade duo. What comes in big in this particular matchup are these stuns. Even to the point where, so if you stun, you can see here too, they actually Fading Memories one of the ephemeral units, which is kind of okay, that's cute. You still have one on board. But we prevented this 5/3 from attacking, which is pretty big. We can chump block the 4/3 because it's not elusive. And the unfortunate thing is that elusives, if they're stunned, they're always going to die. And that's what makes these Arachnoid Sentries really good. I mean, beyond that, in other matchups, which I think you'll actually see in the next match that we're going to go over in a second, they can stun fearsome blockers as well, which is super important. So in this case, we're using them defensively. Same thing with the Frenzied Skitterers. We could use them defensively in this matchup, similar to the Bannerman matchup that we just went over as well. But generally speaking, we're going to want to go ahead and try to get these Arachnoid Sentries down. And you can see how big of a board we have now. We have the Nocturne out. The Nocturne, again, pushing through 5 damage. Very, very good here. Our opponent's down to 9. We have Doom Beast. And we even have Unspeakable Horror. So something to note about is Unspeakable Horror. This can go face. So Vile Feast can't go face. And this is why I actually think Unspeakable Horror is better. Unspeakable Horror can go face. So sometimes it can be that 1 extra point of damage that you need on top of Noxian Fervor, on top of Doom Beast, on top of the fearsome attackers. You get that 1 extra point of damage where your opponent thinks they might be out of it, and they're not. They're still dead. So, all right. Again, generally speaking, with the mulligans, you want to go ahead and mulligan for units. So this is just like any typical aggro or burn deck where you know you're going to draw into your burn and some of those tools. you want to be able to establish the board first and foremost. So I want to go ahead and get some of these options out here. Precious Pet, by far, best turn 1 play you're going to get. Feels really good. Stygian Onlooker is actually not a card you want to draw first turn. Just throwing that out there. This matchup, though, so this is another reason why I wanted to put all 4 games in here. Again, 4 completely different decks. This one, probably the most popular deck of the last format. Ash Sejuani, mid-range Frostbite. This deck also gets wrecked by what we are playing. Why? Well, a few reasons. First and foremost, all the damage sticks. They don't have any heal. All right, so Freljord has heal, but unfortunately, they don't have access to it typically in this deck. Targon, that is something to note with the Targon matchup that we saw earlier with Asol. Targon does have heal, that like draw 1, heal 2 type deal. Healing touch, I think it is. And so you do have to play around that a little bit, but this matchup, no heal to play around. Feels good. Another thing, you have these can't block units. Even if they're just playing Glory Seeker and not playing the other Trifarian, or whatever the heck it's called, the Reckless Trifarian, there you go. Whew, sometimes these card names, guys, they're rough. So even if they're not playing that and they're only playing the Glory Seeker, you can see here how they're getting wrecked because they're not able to block my field. They probably should have pulled the Precious Pet first turn when they had the shot to go ahead and get rid of it. Another good use of the Arachnoid Sentry, completely shutting down my opponent's Glory Seeker. So that's the other thing you can do here with these sentries is shut down aggressive turns with challenger units so that you can continue to maintain a wide board. Up next, what do we got? We got some Frenzied Skitterer action. Wait, I count 1, 2, 3, 4. Pretty sure I count 4 on field. So we could actually go for the Frenzied Skitterer. Seems like a good play. What seems like a better play than Frenzied Skitterer? That's right, Nocturne. So one of the reasons we did what we did there was exactly for Avarosian Hearthguard or some other 5-drop that they probably would have played. As much as the Frenzied Skitterer would have pushed through a lot of damage, this Hearthguard would have gotten a block off onto this Nocturne, which would have felt really bad. So I'd rather get the Nocturne damage through and save the Frenzied Skitterers for some sort of maybe finisher turn or something similar, or just another turn where my opponent is not going to be able to block. Another thing of note is that Nocturne is more expensive. I already had 1 Doom Beast in hand. Now I have cheaper activators for the Doom Beast. So like right now, as perfect example, I could not have played Nocturne and Doom Beast this turn. Yeah, it wouldn't have worked. Now I would have still had 1 Frenzied Skitterer left, but just something that you do have to consider with this deck is the mana management as far as playing your Nightfall cards, because it's very crucial to get something like these Doom Beasts off turn after turn after turn. So again, here we finally play the Frenzied Skitterer, which feels really bad for our opponent. They actually do play another Fearsome blocker. We could return with another Nocturne, but instead of doing so, we can just go for the Doom Beast. We could have probably killed them just going Nocturne and face, but Doom Beast feels better. I think this card is going to be so good in aggro decks, and we go home, take home game number 4. All right, guys, that is it. Again, deck link, deck code going to be in the description below. Super excited to bring this deck to you guys. Hopefully, I'm kind of hoping this will be like the new aggro deck in the format because I really like how Nocturne works. I really would like to see Elise kind of return to form from her days of old in Spider Aggro and just see Spider Aggro just become a thing in general, right? So, pretty excited, guys. I cannot wait to get back to the ladder, use this deck to climb a crap ton, some more ranked games. Again, all those games are ranked too, so like this is doing some work right now. So everybody, as always, stay healthy, stay positive. I hope shit just works for you, and peace out.